Okay, I'm going to start, and in just
I can do this one.
okay, allow it.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Oh, is it okay? Start meeting? Do I have to press? It's on. Peter Paul?
Yes.
Okay, can you open a webinar, please?
Yeah, I can open the webinar. Everybody, welcome to the webinar, Discover the Technical and Business Value of the MOBiNET Core Components. Today, my name is Peter Paul. I'm from TNO. I'm the Technical Manager of MOBiNET. I will just give a very brief introduction, first 5 minutes on this webinar. And then Janki Dodia from DLR will take over. She will be the moderator for the rest of the session and will guide you through the whole webinar. She will first go into the Server Support Center for 5 minutes, and then we will dive into the MOBiNET core components. Today we will cover 6 components out of the 11. Next Thursday, the other 5 components will follow. After we covered the components, so there will be a presentation on the MOBiNET components from the business perspective. Michael Senna from Allianz Telematics will present this, and then after we have 10 minutes of questions, answers, and conclusions, which will be moderated by Janki as well. Some information on the right side, you will see a menu. If you have any problems with audio, use the audio setup for that. And if you have any questions, you can type them in the question panel. You will stay muted for the whole session, and in the end of this webinar, the questions will be answered by the relevant expert. For start, this is not the first webinar we have. We had an earlier webinar already, which is called Open to External Stakeholders to Test the Use Cases. I will click on it. It's a link to the MOBiNET website, where there is a button referring to the webinars, and there this is fully explained. And there is also the presentations which were given at this webinar in December, where the whole MOBiNET platform was more high-level explained. For instance, if you go to this presentation, you will see the whole explanation, but from a high-level perspective. So I won't go into it now, but there you can see that the architecture from a high-level point of view was explained, to give you an idea. So if you're looking for this high-level overview of the MOBiNET, it would be a good idea to check this webinar as well. There's a whole recording available on the website. So back to the presentation. So that in December it was the high-level overview of the MOBiNET platform. Today we will go into the 6 out of the 11 components, and Janki will be your moderator and guide you through these presentations of these 6 components. So enjoy. I hope it will be valuable. So I give the screen now to Janki, who will start with explaining the Server Support Center.
Thank you, Peter Paul. Good morning, everyone. Let me introduce myself again. I'm Janki Dodia from German Aerospace Center, and I'm the lead of the technical work package of MOBiNET. Just before we go into the presentation, just a little bit about this work package. Its objective has been to develop the MOBiNET platform, which consists of several components, which will be presented by our component leaders later. The objective of this MOBiCENTRE has been to provide a platform and infrastructure which allows creation and usage of Europe-wide mobility services. And to achieve this, MOBiNET gathered a large consortium of experts, including expert developers, companies providing expertise for components, service providers, and research organizations. Before I move into this Service Support Center, just there will be later an interactive polling, which will be followed by question and answer sessions where you can send us your questions at that moment. Okay, without further ado, let's move on to the Service Support Center. If I can go to the next slide, Maria. So the Service Support Center is the first point for users of MOBiNET who need information about the MOBiNET platform for users of the platform or its components or for developing purpose. And it is a website integrated in the dashboard. Next slide, please. So here you can see this is the snapshot of the Service Support Center. And we have, can you go to the slide above, please? Okay, here you can see in the support tab, you can see the terms of service, contact, and support center. These are the three widgets that are provided. The next slide, please. And here is the snapshot of the Service Support Center. And you can see here in the menu, highlighted in red, you can see all the topics and where it also provides an overview of MOBiNET. Next. If you open these menus, for example, here you can find the subtopics and more information. So here you can see, for instance, the service deployment section, and this provides information about the service development kit and tools to develop and deploy and operate the services and descriptions. And also there's practical guidance on how to use the components of the MOBiCentre. Next slides, please. And then you can also find the detailed information about the service description files and dashboards and widgets. Next. We also have a troubleshooting section, and which provides you with frequently asked questions. You have the videos for developers and extensive documentation related to the components, and also the SDK, which is the Service Development Kit. Next, please. One of the important things to remember when about Service Support Center is it is divided into two groups, which is the normal end users and the users with developer rights. So you will have two different views and access to information according to the role you have. Can you go to the next slide, please? For instance, this is the normal end user, and you have the access to overview about the MOBiNET using the dashboard and troubleshooting section. And when you have the developer rights, which is in the next slide, you have the complete information about the service deployment, service description, and components. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, then we'll go to the next widget, which was the terms of service, and it provides the terms of usage of MOBiNET platform and its services. And to the access and use of the service is conditioned on the user's acceptance and compliance with these terms. Can we go to the next slide, please? We also have contact information. Here you can you have a general contact, and you have also a special contact for developers and technical support. And here you can also contact the platform owner to get developer rights if you want, and you can contact it also with the technical support. Okay, thank you very much for listening to this, and now our component leaders will be presenting the components one by one, and I think we should move on to Benjamin Hepkin from NEC, who would be presenting the MOBiCENTRE Dashboard. Okay, over to you, Benjamin.
So I'm presenter now.
Yes, Maria will.
Sure, why not? Just give me a second to. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, all right. So hello everybody. My name is Benjamin Hipken. I'm from NEC Labs Europe. And I'm going to quickly show you basically what the MOBiNET dashboard is. So the component main features are basically, it's the central hub to access the MOBiNET platform. That means for developers, for company owners, and also for the administration of most of the platform components. It also is the front end to a lot of the MOBiNET services, in particular, as you just saw, to the MOBiNET Support Center, also to the MOBiNET Service Directory, the analytics, which includes network and data quality analytics, to the billing in all forms, what it has to support, for data format catalog, where we describe formats which are used by services, and also to the identity manager used within the MOBiNET platform. This all is done basically through widgets. So the way, just to quickly show the way this works. So the MOBiNET Dashboard is basically has a widget container which integrates W3C widgets, which present the front end to access this various service. Those services are going to be explained later on, so I'm just quickly going through here. Just to give a quick overview on the possibilities on the dashboard and to the different users. So basically we have the platform admin, which is there to manage the platform. We have parties, which means basically companies. We also, which then have users and developers, and we have single developers and single users. And as you can see, depending on your role, for instance, a party admin can manage the services of a party which are registered in the service directory, and the developer can it. But the single user, which is maybe not a developer in your company, cannot do this. And so we agreed to a certain layout here to support basically the management of companies that they can decide which people are allowed to change what. Yes, and just to give you quick screenshots basically on how the service directory looks. At the moment, there, for instance, is a service description opened. This is how it looks. If you get access to it, you will get then access to all these different services. That's it from my side. Whom do I hand over the thing now?
It's
okay.
Now Enzo for Identity Manager.
Yankee, I believe Enzo is not present in the panel. Can somebody of the team take over the presentation of the Identity Manager, please? Peter Paul?
Peter Paul?
Yankee?
Yeah, I'm not the expert in that.
I shall project.
Enzo is here. Enzo is here. I can see him.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear.
Can you hear me?
Okay,
yeah.
yes.
Oh, fine.
Okay.
Okay. Can you see the slide too?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, fine. So let's start. So let's talk about the IDM, the Identity Manager module of the MOBiNET platform that is responsible of handling the identity for all MOBiNET entities. In particular, you can see in this white box view the main implemented submodules, the registry and the authorization. In fact, the IDM manages in particular users' authentication and clients' authorization for using MOBiNET services, enabling users and services providers to log in to MOBiNET, also using an internal OpenID server, and let clients use its services in a secure way using an authorization server. For basic session management, a single sign-on solution is also supported, in order then when navigating from the dashboard to another MOBiNET site, there is no need to every time provide the password, the credentials. In particular, two management sites are made available by the IDM and are integrated into the dashboard site. First, the entity management site to configure the platform and to register both business and customer users, assigning to each entity its role and associating its relevant attributes. The second site is the client authorization management site, allowing a client to be registered by a developer in order to use the authorization features provided by the IDM authorization server. Moreover, you can see in the figure that there are a lot of REST services in order first to let every MOBiNET module get the needed entity profiles information, and second, to provide specific features required by MOBiNET modules, and here centralized in the IDM, for example, to support billing, dashboard, TSP Manager. Here we can see the authentication features in more details. The IDM provides user authentication, as I said, for using MOBiNET services. User may currently log in using an internal OpenID IDP or using a basic authentication standard procedure provided by a specific REST service. Moreover, because it's more foreseen, especially for end users, that it could be convenient to allow also a login using a pre-existing account a user may have with an external IDP. Also, this possibility was implemented, and currently the dashboard, which is the entry point to MOBiNET, in fact proposes two login alternatives, one using the internal OpenID IDP, and another one using the external Google one. Let's move on the authorization submodules. In general, these submodules deals with authorization features for both clients and entities. Because a client authorization is foreseen for some implemented use case, the IDM implemented the Know-out 2.0 authorization server, providing a client credential grant. That authorization server can be used by both a registered client to obtain a token and by a service to verify if a client-provided token is valid. Then, as I said, the specific authorization side allows a developer to register a client, so it could use a specific MOBiNET services that requires authorization. Here is something related to the roles, the implemented roles in the platform, but I heard that it was already explained. There is a platform admin role for the user in charge of configuring the platform, creating parties, and related party administrators. He can personally handle, enable, delete all users, business one, and the users. There is a hierarchical management for business users, while an end user can register in MOBiNET by his own as a user with a single user role. He can possibly be elevated to the role of single developer only by the platform admin. Relating to the interactions between the IDM and other MOBiNET components, we can say that there are many interactions, starting from dashboard with the login and the integration of the sites provided by the IDM, the entity management and the client authorization management site, the interaction with the service directory in relation with the handling of services requiring a client credential one, the integration with the billing modules for payment-related attributes, the entity attributes provisioning to authorized clients, internal and external ones, the interaction with the TSP Manager for the UBI use case. That's all. Hello?
Okay, thank you very much, Enzo. We will now move on to the service directory from Lars Michelson from Aalborg University. Lars, over to you.
Yes, thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yes, so I'm here to talk about the service directory and the data format catalog, which is a support component to the service directory. The service directory component supports storage management and search of service descriptions. And in the MOBiNET context, it's related to ITS services. So the service directory does not store or host the services, but simply store descriptions of them to point to where they can be interacted with and how to interact with them. So description of the interface of the services. It does this using OAuth to support security, but it also supports machine-to-machine type communication with the service directory. So you can basically develop your services or applications to perform automatic service discovery in the service directory. To be able to manage service descriptions in the directory, you need a user at the MOBiNET IDM. And this is to ensure that the right users manage or edit the service descriptions. It can also be accessed using a REST interface, but the easiest is by far using the service directory, which is in the dashboard that Benjamin showed earlier. Here on the slide, we see on the right map view of some services based on a search. So this is just a small example. And below we see the widget for performing advanced search of services. So we see there are quite a lot of different types of filtering that can be applied to find the services for your need. The main interactions of the service directory is that, of course, it's interacted with via the dashboard by the users. But there's also a link between the service directory and the data format catalog that I will explain in the next slide, which means that when looking at the service details, which is what we see here on the right, there's a direct link to the output data format or input data format that's used by the service description. So you can go directly to the data format catalog and get the description of that particular data format. Yes, and below here on the bottom, we see an example of the view in the Service Description Manager widget, where you have the possibility to upload a new version, delete it, or watch the details of your services. Moving on to the data format catalog. As it says, it's a catalog of data formats, so it contains descriptions of the data formats that's used or supported by the services registered in the service directory. Here we also use OAuth for authentication and security. And the interaction with the data format catalog is also through the dashboard. Again, Benjamin also showed that briefly in his presentation. It's also possible to access it or interact with it via REST interface, but the dashboard widgets are by far preferable. Down here below, we see just a simple callout of the search widget, where you can perform a simple free text search of the data formats, and they will appear searched. Yeah, the data format is mainly interacted with through the dashboard, where we have the search widgets I showed before, and we also have the management widget, where also here you can edit your widget, you can delete it, or watch the details of it, such that it's up to date to the data format that it actually describes. Yes, that's all from my side.
Thank you, Lars. Okay, now we will move on to the billing service, which will be presented by Daniela Vasari from Plus Service. Daniela, over to you.
Hello to everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Waiting, for the slide. I'm Daniela Vasari here from Plus Service, and we are responsible of the billing component. one of the main components in design and developed in MOBiNET. Maria, can you show the slide? Okay. No?
We see that.
Yeah, exactly. So today I present you just an overview about the billing component, the main features, and the main integration and interaction and the service that integrates the billing component. So at first, the billing component, the billing is a tool and is a very complex tool that includes different aspects from the organizational, fiscal, administrative, and accounting. Two main phases within MOBiNET we perform. So the first one is the design of the billing component, and is designed to support the different business models and billing schemas, so business to business or business to customer, so to reach the end users for services offered and provided to the end users, and different payment modes. And the second phase is the implementation. So the billing component is implemented to support the generation of MOBiNET invoices for all users registered in the MOBiNET platform, as explained before by Enzo. So the invoices and the registration for all kind of users. The sale commissions and the publishing commission due to MOBiNET for its services provided by MOBiNET and displayed in the dashboard and the service directory. The business-to-business purchase of a product or service, such as the implementation with the parking services a demonstration, and the payment with the SEPA direct debit for the amount due to MOBiNET for its service published on the service directory. The next one, please. Yeah, in this slide you can see the three main steps of the billing process. So the first one is the configuration of parameters relevant for billing purposes. So the personal data, for example, the invoice issuer or the invoice recipient. So the tax code, the company name, the address, email, and so on. The real-time log of events are relevant for billing purposes, and it's very, very important. And this is possible thanks the development of the web API. And any service provider can query this API and integrate the billing event component. And the third step is the end of period billing processing, and the frequency of the billing processes is configurable, but of course, often is set as monthly processing, because we refer to the calculation of the amount due, the generation of the invoice, of course, at the end of the month, the SEPA file for pay the commission due to MOBiNET administrator. And so, yeah, this is the three main steps. According to this, the billing component is characterized by the main functionalities, and here you can see four main functionalities that includes the sub operations. So the billing configuration that I said before. So is it possible to set the parameters on the identity manager component, the fair configuration for the service of the service provider for the service published on the service directory, and the configuration of the billing parameters. The billing processing is the main one functionality, and includes the generation, so the calculation of all parameters, and then the generation of the invoice. XML file includes all data available and useful for the generation of invoice. The SEPA for the amount due to the MOBiNET administrator, and a tool to send the invoice via email. Then the third functionality, macro functionality is the billing event list that tracks all events relevant for the billing, and it is fed in real time by other modules, procedures, and services through the web API already published and available on the MOBiNET platform. And then the tool to visualize the data and invoices and the file generated by the billing component. And of course, according to the role of the users, the user can see any kind of functionalities or a part of them. The next one, please. In this slide, you can see on the right the high level of architecture and the integration with billing component with the other component of provided by MOBiNET. So the first one is the identity manager for the real-time log billing events, and of course to track and to detect, all the personal data of the users to create and generate the related invoice. The integration with the dashboard, the W3C widget for billing components are deployed in the service directory, and the main service that integrates the billing component in MOBiNET is the parking service. So 3 different scenarios, so Italy, Denmark, Greece, and Hungary, integrate the billing component and demonstrate the usage and of the billing component. And the next one, we start in the activity to integrate the billing component also for the taxi service in Bologna, the city in the center of Italy. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. We will now move on to the next presentation about Analytics Server from Benjamin Hepkin from NEC. Over to you, Benjamin.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so in MOBiNET we added an analytics component, which basically has 3 main features. It should first allow app and service developers to record data about the usage of their app and where it's used, how it's used, and so on. And the second step is then basically providing a set of analytics, allowing a good overview of the collected data so that you can actually figure out something out of this and adapt your app depending on what the data tells you. And the third component of it is an analysis of mobile connection data, so mobile network quality, in order to allow developers to optimize their app when they use data, basically when to use it and where to use it more or less, depending on how good the network quality is. So this is a basic overview of the component, how it works at the moment. We have an input interface which we have defined. We store everything in a CouchDB at the moment for convenience reasons. Do some MapReduce jobs, do some post-processing after this, and then provide everything through an output interface, which is basically publicly available, but we also show things then on widgets on the dashboard. So for the collection of app and service usage data, basically we defined a post interface using JSON documents. We require basically a few filled-in fields, which are the origin basically, so your service name or whatever you would like to call that. Then the type of data. We have a few defined types of data which we support then with additional analytics. Of course, the developer is free to just add whatever he wants there, and in case he just wants to record data. A timestamp, of course, an identifier for the data set, and then the actual value using the full expressiveness of JSON. So the available analytics basically for apps and services are basically how often has your service been discovered in the service directory, meaning how often are looking people for your service, how many customers do you have, how often do you register or deregister services, how often is your service discovered in the last 24 hours, meaning basically how hip is it. Service registrations for each companies, also in the last 24 hours if you want that. How often is your service then actually used? So you reported to us that it's used. How often is it used in the last 24 hours, and also then per customer, and also the number of service users a company has overall. So this is basically giving the features we are giving for app and service developers to basically optimize their services afterwards when they see the data and can then realize, okay, I'm doing something wrong here. I have to change something because my app is not appreciated in this area. This all is presented on the dashboard. You can see now a screenshot of that widget. We do provide also some charts and also some maps basically to showcase these. You can also get this data directly through the output interface if you intend to, or like to integrate it directly into your app. The next part is basically on how the collection of mobile network data works. Basically, the way this works is we have an Android client which basically collects the network data. We collect it, and we do some analysis to make this collected data actually usable for app developers. In order to do so, basically we are associating all the measured data to square tiles of 5 by 5 meters because with single measurements you can't really optimize something because it's just way too much. You would rather like to know, okay, I'm entering now an area where data is good or where the strength not so good. In order to compensate basically for the missing data, as you can see here in this graphics, so we assign our measurements to the tiles, and then we sometimes have empty spaces. In order to compensate for that, we are using an interpolation method, which is location-based basically, and we're taking the accuracy and of the measurement, so of the GPS location of that measurement into account, in order also to give a certainty level on how good our assumptions are in order to get there. So this is also shown on the dashboard. We also have a widget to represent that. As you can see here, you will get a nice overlay over a map, and also color-coded grid tiles basically telling you how is the data there, how is the data here. In terms of interactions with other components, so the analytics component is basically integrated in the dashboard. It uses it as front end, and authentication and authorization are going through the identity manager to make sure who accesses what. Aside from that, the analytics component basically provides this open interface for app and service developers to integrate with. I listed up a few ideas here, basically showing that, for instance, when you have information about mobile data usage, that you could basically optimize your app. If you use a lot of data, when should you pre-cache and when not, so that your user has a seamless experience? Or where and how are my apps used, so that you can target specific areas where they are not used maybe, or maybe enhance the experience of the users who are using it. Or figure out what kind of advertisement you should sell through your app. That's the kind of possibilities we see here. So this is the end of my slides, and I'm giving back to Janki, I think, or
yes,
no,
yes.
to Michael.
Thank
I
you.
think.
Yeah, it's Michael actually. Thank you, and I think Michael will now present the TSP Manager. Michael Zena is from Allianz Telematics. Okay, Michael, over to you.
Thank you, Elke. Good morning. My name is Michael Senna. Allianz Telematics is responsible for the development of the TSP Manager and also for the principal application of the TSP Manager, which is usage-based insurance in the Italian pilot. Before describing what the TSP Manager does, it's important to define what a telematic service provider is. The TSP is, in an automotive application, the receptor of data from vehicles, from an onboard systems that are integrated in vehicles either at the factory or as an aftermarket device. And they're also responsible for delivering data messages to these vehicles in a secure manner. The telematic service provider directs the messages from systems to the appropriate service providers and often supplements these messages with vehicle data or customer data, which is either stored locally with the TSP or is part of the OEM, the car or vehicle truck manufacturers' databases. So what is the TSP Manager responsible for doing? It provides the means for communicating between the telematic service providers and other service providers, whether it's insurance, for usage-based insurance, or roadside assistance, for remote diagnostics. The TSP Manager is responsible for delivering the data from and to these service providers and the telematic service providers. The communication between the service providers, such as usage-based insurance, and their TSPs. For example, if there's a change of provider, the insurance provider is now taking over from another insurance company, there needs to be a message sent to the telematic service provider that says the data that's coming from this particular vehicle will now be sent to another telematic service provider and another insurance provider. It's also responsible for ensuring that communications exist between telematic service providers. So if I have a BMW and data is coming from the BMW for an insurance application, that data needs to go to the telematic service provider who's in charge of the data being sent to another insurance company. So the TSP Manager is responsible for ensuring that the data moves from one set of applications to another. The TSP Manager sits inside of MOBiCENTRE. It's along with the Identity Manager, Analytics Server, Communications Agent, Service Directory. It's very much a part of what is happening inside of the MOBiCENTRE. It provides the endpoint where service providers are able to push data requests for new customers or changes of customers. In parallel, there's a client able to trigger 3 different points on the TSP side. So each telematic service provider will expose endpoints in their systems to welcome a new customer. So a new customer is signed up for insurance on my IBM Connected Drive system. I was able to send a message to that customer saying, welcome, this is the procedures that we're going to be using, etc. To enable the portability of the customer to move from one service provider to another. So the telematic service provider does everything that's necessary to ensure that the new customer is now part of another service provider. And also very important to be able to close services. If a customer decides to cancel the services, these services have to be closed and messages have to be sent to the various service providers and TSPs. So in terms of an example, the telematic system is not communicating with MOBiNET. It's not communicating through MOBiNET. it's communicating with its telematic service providers. The telematic service provider, in turn, is using MOBiNET to deliver messages to and accept messages from the service providers, whether it's remote diagnostics, insurance, roadside assistance. These messages are sent through the TSP Manager. So MOBiNET provides a method for any vehicle to deliver services or have services delivered from any service provider, simply by taking the data messages that are sent from the vehicle to its telematic service provider and then being able to manage the process for moving those services from one to the other. So, example, the car owner is looking for a roadside assistance service provider. That customer, using the MOBi agent and the service directory, finds who is available, who can provide the services for that particular device. A car owner would like to find insurance that is offered for that device, whether it's a Volvo on-call system, BMW Connect, whatever type of system it is. That customer is able to use the MOBi agent to discover using the service directory. A car owner wants to switch from one service provider to another. One day I've got Allianz Insurance, the other day I'd like to switch to AXA Insurance. I can make those changes. The telematic service provider manager is able to manage all of those administrative and technical processes for the customer and for the service providers. Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I think you would be continuing to the next presentation as well, which is the business perspective. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Now I'm going to change hats. Allianz Telematics has had responsibility for, as I said, the development of the Telematic Service Provider Manager and also participating in the usage-based insurance application. We've also had the overall responsibility for the business work packages. So Peter Paul is responsible as the manager of the technical packages, and I've been responsible for the business packages. Within this, the key value of MOBiNET, and we need to start with that, is as an e-mobility marketplace platform. It is a two-sided network. The whole concept of MOBiNET is based on developing a multi-vendor platform for Europe-wide delivery of mobility services. And I've put in here parentheses global. There's no reason why the platform cannot be used on a global scale. The platform is designed to support the delivery of services and data to private and commercial users using data and services from public and private sources. So it truly is a marketplace platform, or two-sided network as it's commonly called. We have service providers, we have data providers, and we have users who are both business users and private users. The platform is designed to be able to accommodate this. We also must consider, and have considered in the development of the platform, that it will support multiple business strategies and business models, not only for private companies, but also for the public sector. The public sector has different strategies, it has different goals than a private sector, which is private sector maximizing profits, increasing the number of customers, etc. On the public side, we have reducing environmental effects of noxious emissions, of reducing traffic accidents, reducing congestion. So the platform is designed to be able to support these multiple strategies and business models, both for the public and for the private. You've seen the diagram. The platform is MOBiCENTRE. We've designed it so that it's possible to integrate a variety of different types of service providers across borders. It's not restricted in geography. It's not restricted in applications. The MOBiNET e-mobility marketplace platform doesn't store data. It stores information about services. There is an identity manager, of course, and that identity manager is responsible for ensuring that the people who are connecting to it, whether it's end users, service providers, or content providers, are all in accord with how the data and the data and services will be used. So the identity manager is a method for us to be able to ensure that everyone who's using the platform is doing so according to the regulations and rules and regulations that we've set up, so that everyone is able to do what they need to do in the most effective way. So what is the value, the principal value? MOBiCENTRE is managing the flow of information from the service and content providers to the eventual service developers and end users. MOBiAgent is the tool for end users. It's how the end users of this service, whether it's a person in Helsinki who's trying to make a multimodal trip to Rome, is able to do that, is able to find the service providers that they'll be using along the way, and also when they get there. So the MOBiAgent is the tool that's in the hands of the end user. So the SDK and the dashboard are the entry points for service developers and for the service and content providers. This is the way that a company that wants to deliver this service, such as parking, in multiple cities all over Europe, is able to advertise those services, describe those services, both for the end users and also for those companies or public service providers who have data that they want to be able to use. So if I'm a public parking operator in one city and I'm a private parking operator in another city, I can deliver the data that's necessary for an application developer of parking services to be able to incorporate that into an application. So the key here is that the MOBiNET has been designed to ensure that we have a business platform, that the platform is going to be able to be used by all those who need to deliver services, either to increase their profitability or to increase the services that they're charged with doing as a public operator. Okay, that's it.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Yes, so as we can see, MOBiNET is an internet-based network linking travelers, transport users, transport system operators, service providers, content providers, and transport infrastructure. And this is all enabled by the components and tools which was previously presented by our component leaders who's been working very hard from last 3 years, providing the expertise. Now we will move on to the polling question, which will appear on your screens soon, so very soon. So you can provide us your feedback. Okay. All right. So we see here which component do you find the most useful, and we have a good distribution, and TSP Manager seems to be the most interesting one. We will now move on to the question and answer session, and you can start sending us the questions. I know that there was one question already, which was about are you going to publish presentations or video recording after the webinar somewhere? If yes, where we can download it? Yes, we will be recording it, and the presentations will be available in a week on the website, which Peter Paul showed, MOBiNET.eu. There will also be a link to YouTube, and you can find this webinar recording on YouTube as well. The link will be provided on the website as well. Let's see if there's any more questions coming. Please feel free to ask the questions here. We have our component leaders who can answer your questions related to the components as well. So we can wait for a minute or so if we have any more questions.
I suggest we talk about the next components webinar next week, and which components will be dealt with in that webinar.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. So the next webinar will be on the 16th of February 2017 at 14 o'clock, 14 hour to 15 hour, and you can find this information on the website as well. And this will be presenting the rest of the components, which is the communication agent, MOBi agent, data quality assessment, the service development kit, and the privacy and security. We will also be providing again the business perspective for any new participants, and there will be another question and answer session, and yeah, an introduction to the MOBiNET again. So that is all for today. And just to go through the first part again, today we presented 6 out of the 11 components, which was the MOBiCENTRE Dashboard, Identity Manager, Service Directory, Service Billing, Analytics Server, TSP Manager. We also presented the Service Support Center, which will be again presented in the next webinar. And we will have, we had business perspectives, which gave the business added value of the components with regard to the MOBiNET concept. Yeah, I think that's all for today. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating in this webinar. Thank you to the component leaders. Thank you, Michael, for giving us the business perspective. And thank you to the organizers at Tuco for organizing this webinar. Thank you very much.